This recipe yields up about 6 pans. 5 pounds of hamburger, 3 cabbages, 2 onions, makes about 6 pans. You can cut the recipe in half, just taste it as you go if you just want to do half recipe. This is my mom's recipe, kraut burgers, and all my friends and everybody like this one, and they've been waiting for me to do this video, so hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to make the dough. We're going to make it from scratch. We're going to make the rye dough. So this is just whatever kind of rye you can find at the store. We only need 1/4 of a cup. And then Wesson oil vegetable oil. We need 1/3 of a cup. 2 bags of yeast, just regular yeast. So we're going to add our yeast to a bowl. We're going to put in 3 cups of warm water. Just a little bit warmer than lukewarm water. You don't want it too hot, but you want it warm. We want 3 cups. Now we're going to take a fork. We're going to mix this up real slowly until we get the yeast to dissolve, pretty much dissolve in here. Now we're going to add 1/3 cup of oil, 1/4 a cup of rye. We're going to add 3 cups of flour. Then we're going to mix this all up by hand. And then once we get this mixed up really good and broken down, we're going to cover it with a heavy towel, set it in the microwave, and let it rise. Okay, now that we have our dough rising, we're going to go ahead and start our mixture for the kraut burgers. What we're going to need here is we're going to need 3 cabbages, either 3 medium cabbages or 2 very large cabbages. Then we're going to need 2 onions. Maybe we're going to use about 1.5 onions. Large onion or medium onions, we're only going to use about 1.5 of these onions. You can make this mixture any way you want. You can add more cabbage, you can add more onions. The way we always do it is every head of cabbage, use 1/2 an onion. And we're going to start browning 5 pounds of hamburger. And we've already got that started on the stove. So we're going to cut up the cabbage. Of course, always peel off the first head of leaf there, the first leaf, throw it away. Make sure you wash this first before you start using it, just to get all their stuff off of it. We're going to cut the core out. Once we get the core cut out, we're going to sit here and dice this up. You can either dice it up by hand with a knife. I usually use a bread knife. You can dice it up by hand and make it into small pieces. But what I do is I'm going to cut the core out and I'm going to put it through a food processor. That'll actually keep a lot of the juices in it. So we'll be back at that time. Thanks. Okay, now that we have our cabbage washed and split in half, we're going to cut the core out. Best way to do it, just cut around it, make like a V shape. And you're going to throw that away. And this part, just throw it away. And since I'm going to put this in my food processor, we're going to slice it about 1 inch. Now running this through a food processor, this will actually keep a lot of the juices in it, so it makes the cabbage actually better than sitting here cutting it all by hand. So food processor, turn it on. Start putting it through. Then when I get through about half the cabbage, I'll add 1/2 of the onions to this. Plus, this is a lot of time saver too to do it this way. Okay, so once you run one head of cabbage through here and half an onion, it's going to kind of look like coleslaw. Go ahead and put this in a big bowl. We're going to start cooking this until and cook this all down. For every one head of cabbage that we put in here, we need 1 cup of water. So I got one cabbage in here with part of an onion. We're going to put 1 cup of water in here. Now we're going to start cooking this down. Now I'm going to get the rest of the cabbage done and get it in here. Okay, we have 2 cabbages in here now with an onion and a half. And we've added 2 cups of water. Now we're going to add half of our hamburger. We already drained the fat out of this one. So we're going to add half of our hamburger. Get the rest of our hamburger cooking and mix this up really good. Put a lid on it, just let it kind of cook down. You can see how tall it is right now. We might add another half a cabbage to this one. Okay, now that we have the other half of our hamburger cooked, not done yet, but cooked, we're gonna put about half of the juice inside of our cabbage. Then we're gonna go ahead and cook the rest of this. This will give the cabbage a lot of the flavor. So that's what we did that, and now we're going to cook the rest of this and drain the rest of the juice out of the hamburger and add it to it. Okay, now that our hamburger's done, we're going to add the rest of our hamburger to our cabbage. Mix this up. We're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Because of how much I put in here with the cabbage, I actually have 2.5 full cabbages in here and almost 2 onions. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of pepper. Just spread it around, don't clump it in one spot. And we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of salt, not quite 1 tablespoon. I don't like salt, I don't use a lot of salt, but this kind of needs it. But if anybody else needs salt to it, they can add it once they're done. Now we're going to let this cook down. As you can see inside there, it's starting to cook down, but it's not completely cooked down yet. So we're going to keep this covered, keep mixing it, and just keep it on a medium heat, a low heat, a low and medium heat. Like about a 4 on your stove. Just slowly let this cook down. Okay, you can see our dough, how much it has risen. So now what we're going to do is just going to take our hands, we're going to go in here and just mix it up really good one more time. Then we're going to cover this and put this back in the microwave, let it rise one more time, and then we're going to add more flour to it. Okay, now that we've rose our dough the second time, you can see it bubbling. We're going to add 4 cups of flour. And then we're going to have 1 cup ready to go in because we might need the 5th cup. So now we're going to, how many did I just add? Did I get 4? Okay. So we added 4 cups of flour. I'm going to mix this up. Just mix it by hand. Now it's going to be really sticky to your fingers. But what we're going to do is we're going to add more flour to it. We're going to keep adding a little bit of flour to it until it's not sticky. And it turns into a dough. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more than half a cup. Slowly mix it in. So now we have 4.5 cups of flour in here. And it should come off your fingers halfway easily because of the flour. Okay, now it's starting to look like a dough. We're going to go ahead, because it's still a little sticky, we're going to go ahead and add the rest. So now we have 5 cups of flour in here. And then what we're going to do is you can scrape your fingers off, just rub them together, and most of the dough will come right off. We're going to turn this into a ball. Flip it over, turn it into a ball. We're going to put a heavy towel over this. We're going to let it rise. We're going to let it rise until it's about the top of this or maybe a little bit higher. Then it's ready to use. We're going to put a heavy towel over it and set it in the microwave. That way it'll stay warm and it'll rise quicker. Okay, now that we have the cabbage cooked down, you can see the difference on how much is cooked down. It does have a lot of liquid in it. We're going to turn it down to about a 1 or just a low on the stove. We just want it kept warm, but we don't want it really hot no more. Okay, we're going to take a strainer and we're going to take just an old container that we have. We're going to put the strainer in it. Now what we're going to do is now that our cabbage is cooked and our hamburgers, everything's done, what we're going to do is take a spoon or fork, whatever, that has the drains in it. We're going to try to get the juice out as we pull it up. Get inside here so you can see it. Just so we can get the juice out, because we don't want the juice inside of our crop burgers. So we're going to put some in the strainer. Just do this a little bit at a time. Let it drain down. See how I'm putting it in? And that will put all the juice to the bottom of this bowl. Now we're not going to do all of this. We're just going to do some of it just to get started. And at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off completely and mix it up one more time. Make sure it's not burning on the bottom. Okay, now we're going to start our dough. So we're going to set this over here. We're going to take our dough. We're going to grab about the size of a softball. About the size of a softball. Flour your fingers first so it don't stick to your fingers. We're going to grab about the size of a softball. Pat it around. Flour your table. Flour your roller. We're just going to roll this out. We're going to flip this over. And just roll this out. We're going to flip it over. You see how it just shrunk right there? That's about as thick as we want it. We're going to roll this dough out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then flip it over. So we got it about 1/8 of an inch thick. Cut it into 4 pieces. Add our mixture. Flour your hands. Pull it up, pinch it. Pull it up, pinch it. Just kind of roll it in there. Now we're going to do all 4 of these the same way. Once we get all these pinched and everything, if your hands get a little wet, it kind of makes it a little hard. Just try to do the best you can. We're going to flip these over. We're going to dip them in the oil, just maybe 1/4 of an inch, not even halfway, and then put them in our pan. We're going to fill this pan up, then we're going to go to the next pan, because we're going to let these rise. Okay. Okay, now that you can see our crab burgers, the dough has risen after we put them all together. Now we're going to preheat our stove to 350 degrees, which we're already there. We're going to put these in the stove for about 55 minutes. We'll check them every once in a while, and I'll show you how to check them to see when they're done. Okay, now that we've been baking these for 55 minutes, we're going to check them, and if they're lightly brown, and if you tap on them, they're solid. And these are nice and solid, so they're almost done. So now we're going to take some butter. I use Country Crock, or you can use regular butter. Country Crock or regular butter. And we're going to put butter on top of all these and just kind of spread it around. Then we're going to bake these for another 10 minutes. Okay, after our 10 minutes, we're going to pop these out of the stove. You can see they're lightly brown. We're going to butter them again. Butter them one more time. Like I said, you can use regular butter, or you can use whatever kind of butter you want. Just kind of get them covered up halfway decent. Then we're going to take parchment paper, wax paper, parchment paper, same thing, and we're going to cover them up. We're going to let them sit for about 20 minutes, then they're ready to eat. Okay, once the pans have cooled off, we're going to pop these out. You can eat them right now, but we made a lot of them, so we're going to put them in tin foil. And you can refrigerate them for about a week. And I've never frozen them, but some people do freeze them and then eat them later. But I just tin foil them and then heat them up in the microwave as you want them. And I make them all different sizes. I don't make them all the same size. So if you're hungry for a bigger one, you get a big one, small one, whatever. This recipe yields up about 6 pans. 5 pounds of hamburger, 3 cabbages, 2 onions. Makes about 6 pans. You can cut the recipe in half. Just taste it as you go if you just want to do half recipe. This is my mom's recipe of crop burgers. And all my friends and everybody like this one, and they've been waiting for me to do this video. So hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.